Shocking statement. Investigators say a port director engineered a working cartel gateway, and it ran for 4 years in northern Michigan. Not a rumor. A mapped operation, redesigned shipping schedules, nighttime offloads, and a fast lane bought with monthly bribes. Tonight, we roll the tape of Operation Northern Breakwater, armored units, Coast Guard vessel interdictions near Alpena, and 112 sealed packages in a waterfront warehouse. Then follow the money into casinos and back through shell companies with friendly names. By the end, you'll see why the arrest felt inevitable, and why other ports should be on alert. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. The routine check that started it all wasn't flagged as anything special. An inspector flagged a clearance time that didn't make sense and handed it up. 30 minutes later, a secure room in Traverse City lit up with maps, call signs, and a launch clock. At 2:30 a.m., the order went out. By 3 a.m., 620 agents were moving like they were retaking ground because they knew they weren't chasing a single boat. They were hitting a grid that could scatter in minutes if they telegraphed intent. Operation Northern Breakwater ran on a strict timeline. Teams staged in dark lots, radios low, briefing packets marked with specific door numbers and berth IDs. FBI squads carried corruption warrants with pre-written seizure affidavits. DEA units stacked up for narcotics takedowns and mobile lab tests. DHS teams bridged the land-sea gap, while Coast Guard cutters pivoted north of Alpena to close off lanes that had been used as escape routes before. The plan called for simultaneous entries across northern Michigan to deny warning calls, isolate nodes, and collapse the network's timing. First hits pushed past what agents expected. They were told to find a smuggling route. Instead, they ran into hardened sites. Breach charges went on steel doors at waterfront hubs. Gunfire cracked in Pasquis and Charlevoix when entry teams forced movement faster than the lookouts could react. That kind of resistance told commanders they were inside a defended business model, not a casual drop. Radios captured short, stressed bursts. Breacher up, 2 bangs, hold the hallway. The layered teams worked like parts of a single machine. FBI case agents moved on offices and homes tied to administrative approvals. DEA crews set up triage tables right on concrete floors to test seized powder and pills, tagging cartons for chain of custody. DHS task forces coordinated with Coast Guard boarding teams to stop boats sliding into the darker coves east of the main channel. Helicopters held a slow orbit to watch roads, and fixed-wing drones tracked boats that nosed toward the lines where radar coverage had gaps. On the ground, the chessboard tightened. County roadblocks funneled traffic off side streets and into controlled lanes. Cameras snapped plates, and license ping teams routed hits in real time. Drones followed 2 small craft as they tried to tuck into reeds near a shallow inlet. A cutter bumped them back out as ground teams reached the dock. Every move closed a square. Every square cut off a phone that might have warned a warehouse. The doctrine behind a strike like this explains the headcount. Multi-node raids demand speed and overlap. You hit corruption, product, transport, and finance in one sweep so the network can't reassemble by noon. 620 agents means multiple warrants per site, redundant containment, and arrest teams standing by when the first door opens. It's how you stop a pipeline that branches and feeds itself. The specifics pile up fast when you're dealing with a system that practiced. South of Clinch Park, a waterfront warehouse took charges on the side doors, and entry teams rolled in. On the second aisle, they found 112 sealed packages, strapped and coded for movement. Fentanyl, meth, heroin, cataloged, weighed, logged beside a weapons inventory pulled from a locked cage. The paperwork nearby mattered more than the locks. Clearance logs and port schedules recovered on-site matched paths that never should have aligned without help from the inside. By dawn, leaders called it. They weren't stopping a one-off shipment. They were taking apart infrastructure built to run every week. The force size made sense once the pattern emerged, and the seized schedules pointed up the chain as much as out to the docks. With the ground held and the radios quieter, the next step was obvious. Follow those logs and the intercepted boats to the blueprint that carved 4 receiving zones into a public harbor without a ripple. So how do you convert a public harbor into a covert gateway and keep it running for 4 years? You don't hide the ships, you hide the timing. Investigators say Dana Whitford allegedly did it with a redesign you'd miss if you only scanned the surface. Ship clocks shifted, dock crews rotated, and inspection gaps widened just enough to slide in 4 receiving zones around Grand Traverse Bay without tripping alarms. Start with the map. Each zone sat where oversight thinned at night. A utility pier with maintenance lights that blinked against no scheduled repair. A fuel dock that went dark at midnight on paper but stayed active on thermal. A municipal marina with a caretaker rotation that changed the camera angles. And a slip near a dredge site where temporary fencing bought private minutes. Logs show vessel arrivals entered as routine service calls. The trick wasn't disguise. It was clock management. The redesign pushed legit traffic into predictable windows, then opened narrow lanes after midnight where no one expected legitimate vessels to show. That's where the tension started to show. Coast Guard logs flagged those maintenance lights, and vessel movements didn't match declared schedules. Inspectors wrote up clearances in under 7 minutes. Barely enough time to verify manifests, let alone inspect holds. The numbers didn't argue, they shouted. Routine cargo took hours. These priority vessels tapped a path labeled for emergencies and somehow hit it week after week. The mechanism ran on 2 gears. Unmonitored nighttime offloads synced to oversight gaps, and a paid fast lane to wash the paperwork. Boats eased in after curfew, tied off in pre-assigned slips, dropped pallets into vans, and slid back out before a normal crew reported. The approvals moved even faster. Monthly bribes secured that special channel, according to federal interviews, and the channel did its job. It made abnormal speed look like authorized efficiency. Concrete examples lock it in. One trawler logged at 2:11 cleared by 2:18. A tender 2 nights later cleared at 2:23, off the dock at 2:30. Meanwhile, legitimate haulers sat 3 hours for customs and hazard checks. Pull the pattern and you see the same hull IDs benefiting on the same nights, orbiting the same 4 zones, tied to the same supervising initials on the clearance line. Investigators mapped the windows by stacking signals. IS-like tracks showed arrivals going silent near the bay mouth, then reappearing beside the flagged piers. Dock light signatures spiked in short bursts, 5 to 7 minutes, with no work orders attached. Clearance anomalies lined up with those spikes. Overlay the 3 and the receiving windows present themselves like cutouts on a calendar. Narrow, repeatable, and protected. No single actor made this work. The ecosystem held it together. 3 Coast Guard personnel, each on $12,000 monthly payments, kept the lane open. Casino managers approved high-value chip conversions without the paperwork that normally trips audit alerts. 2 property developers leased shoreline cabins that turned into storage nodes, with generators, dehumidifiers, and reinforced doors installed under insurance upgrades. Everyone took a role that looked ordinary on a checklist and essential in practice. By the time agents saw the flow end to end, the shape changed. This wasn't opportunistic smuggling. It functioned like a state-scale logistics grid with administrative cover. The harbor acted as a distribution engine, not a gate that opened by chance. And that brought them back to the office where the schedules were tuned. The realization hit cleanly. The port was the machine. Whitford's alleged architecture made Traverse City a regional cartel gateway, with the software of operations living in the daily calendar. Once the routes sat on a whiteboard, the next question pulled the room forward. The cash loop that kept it all humming every week, and who built it to run without stalling. Agents found more than contraband moving through Traverse City. They uncovered a cartel-enabled economy built into the port's daily operating system, sustained by routine approvals and quiet cooperation. The research warns that corruption rarely announces itself. It hides in trust, paperwork, and small changes. That demands vigilance from anyone signing off on schedules, maintenance, and clearances. Treat short forms and policy tweaks as signals worth testing. Ask who benefits from speed and who controls the clock. If this blueprint ran in northern Michigan, other ports deserve scrutiny now. The arrest followed 7 hours after the first breach. The real question is which harbor hums next.